The morning alarm echoed through the corridors of New Busan Colony. 3 million humans started their daily routines, unaware that death was falling from the sky. Children ran to school while their parents worked in the mining facilities. The sun rose over the peaceful settlement, casting long shadows across the agricultural domes. Admiral Dae-ho Kim stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Retribution, floating silently in the asteroid belt near Jupiter. His cybernetic eye glowed softly as he reviewed routine patrol reports. The 7th Terran Fleet had been conducting standard exercises for months, appearing to be nothing more than a defense force protecting Earth's outer colonies. Captain Hee-jin, Park approached him with a data pad. Her face was calm, but Dae-ho could see the tension in her shoulders. They had served together for 15 years, and he knew her expressions better than his own. "Sir, we're receiving emergency transmissions from New Busan," she said quietly. Dae-ho took the pad and watched the horror unfold. Vexari warships had appeared without warning above the colony. The aliens were known for their aggressive expansion, but they had never attacked human territory before. The massive ships rained plasma fire down on the defenseless settlement. Buildings melted like ice under a blowtorch. People ran screaming through the streets before being vaporized by the alien weapons. Dr. Woo-sung Lee burst onto the bridge, his lab coat still smoking from whatever experiment he had been working. "Admiral, the Vexari fleet has 17 heavy cruisers and 4 dreadnoughts. They're broadcasting a message on all frequencies." The main screen flickered to life, showing a tall insect-like creature with 4 arms and glowing red eyes. The Vexari commander spoke in accented English. "Humans of the Terran colonies, I am war leader Vextar of the Vexari Empire. Your species has expanded into territory that rightfully belongs to us. You have 2 choices. Surrender immediately and become our slaves, or watch as we destroy every human world in this sector. You have 1 standard day to respond." The transmission ended. The bridge fell silent except for the soft hum of the ship's systems. Dae-ho stared at the screen for a long moment, his human eye focusing on nothing while his cybernetic one processed. "Tactical data. How many survived?" he asked. Hee-jin checked her instruments. "Approximately 50,000 made it to the underground shelters. The rest—" She didn't finish the sentence. Dae-ho nodded slowly. "Send a message to Earth Command. Priority Alpha. Tell them New Busan has fallen and the Vexari have issued an ultimatum." Within hours, a response came back from Earth. It was only 2 lines long, but those words changed everything. "Protocol 7 is now active. Show them what humans really are." Hee-jin looked confused. "Protocol 7? I've never heard of that. Classification." Dr. Woo-sung grinned, and there was something frightening in his expression. "Captain, you're about to learn something that only a few dozen humans in the galaxy know. We've been lying to everyone, including ourselves." Dae-ho walked to the command console and entered a code that he had memorized decades ago, but never thought he would use. Hidden panels throughout the ship slid open, revealing weapon systems that shouldn't exist. The Retribution's hull began to shift and reshape as holographic projectors shut down, revealing the ship's true form. "For 600 years, Dae-ho said quietly, humanity has been preparing for this moment. We knew that someday someone would try to destroy us, so we built ships that could destroy entire fleets. We developed weapons that could crack planets. We trained soldiers who could fight gods. The transformation was complete. The Retribution was no longer a simple heavy cruiser. It was a kilometer-long instrument of death, bristling with weapon turrets and shielded by armor that could withstand the heat of a star. Around them, the rest of the 7th Fleet was undergoing the same transformation. "But Admiral," Hee-jin said, "our technology isn't that advanced. The Galactic Council has always said that humans are centuries behind the other species." "The Galactic Council has been lied to," Dr. Woo-sung replied. "We let them think we were primitive. We traded with them using fake technology that was deliberately inferior. Meanwhile, we were learning everything about their weapons, their ships, their tactics. We've been studying our enemies for centuries while they ignored us." Dae-ho activated the ship's communication system. Across the Sol system, hidden shipyards came online. Thousands of vessels that had been disguised as cargo ships, research stations, and mining platforms revealed their true nature. The Terran Defense Force had been a mask. The real military was about to show itself. "All ships, this is Admiral Kim," he broadcast. "The masquerade is over. Today, the galaxy learns why Earth is called a death world. Today, they discover what happens when you threaten humanity's children." The response was immediate. Ship captains who had pretended to be peaceful merchants suddenly displayed the tactical knowledge of warriors. Scientists revealed themselves to be weapons designers. The quiet, boring humans that other species had dismissed were transforming into something terrifying. Messages began flooding in from across human space. Every colony, every outpost, every trading station was reporting the same thing. Ships that nobody knew existed were appearing from hidden bases. Weapons that shouldn't be possible were powering up. Soldiers who had been disguised as farmers and miners were putting on armor that made them look like walking tanks. "How many ships do we actually have?" Hyejin asked, watching the tactical display fill with friendly contacts. "More than the rest of the galaxy combined," Daeho replied. "We've been building for 6 centuries while they've been fighting each other. They never bothered to count how many cargo ships we sent to each system." A new transmission came from the Vexari fleet. This time, war leader Vextar looked less confident. "Humans, we detect unusual energy signatures from your vessels. Do not attempt to resist our superior technology. Surrender now, and your deaths will be quick." Daeho smiled, and it was not a pleasant expression. "Open a channel." The main screen showed his face to the Vexari commander. Behind him, weapon displays showed energy levels that should have been impossible for human technology. "War leader Vextar," he said calmly, "you have made 2 mistakes. First, you killed our people. Second, you assume that you are the superior species in this conversation." The alien's mandibles clicked nervously. "You cannot threaten the Vaxari Empire with your primitive ships." "Primitive?" Daeho laughed. "Let me show you primitive." He gestured to Dr. Wu Sung, who activated one of the Retribution's new weapon systems. A beam of pure energy lanced out across space, striking a small asteroid. The rock didn't just explode, it ceased to exist, converted entirely to energy that lit up the darkness like a newborn star. "That was our mining laser," Daeho said conversationally. "Would you like to see our actual weapons?" The Vaxari commander's red eyes widened. "Impossible. No species has mastered matter conversion on that scale. No species except humanity," Hyejin added from her station. "We've had 300 years to perfect it while you were busy conquering primitives." Dr. Wusung pulled up holographic displays showing weapon specifications that made the aliens' technology look like stone tools. "We've been very patient, waiting for someone to give us an excuse to stop pretending." Daeho stood up from his command chair. "War leader Vextar, you wanted to know what happens when someone threatens human colonies. You killed 3 million of our people. Now you get to find out what humanity does to species that harm our children." The transmission ended. Around him, the bridge crew worked with deadly efficiency, preparing systems that had been hidden for generations. The masquerade was over. The patient, peaceful humans that the galaxy had known were gone. In their place stood the apex predators of a death world, armed with weapons that could crack moons and commanded by minds that had spent centuries planning for this exact moment. The Vaxari Empire had awakened something that should have been left sleeping. Now they would learn why humanity had been content to stay in the shadows for so long. They had been waiting for someone to give them a reason to stop hiding. That reason had finally come. Commander Jin Woo Choi materialized on the bridge of his ship like a shadow-gaining substance. The stealth vessel Phantom had been invisible for 3 days, drifting silently through the Kepler 442 system while the Vaxari forward base prepared for war. Lieutenant Su Bin Yang jumped slightly when her commander appeared beside her station. Even after 2 years serving on stealth ships, she still wasn't used to the quantum phase technology that let them slip between dimensions. "Status report," Jinwoo said quietly. His voice never rose above a whisper during combat operations. "Sound," Discipline was everything when hunting aliens who might have better sensors than expected. The Vaxari have 43 ships defending the base, Subin replied, checking her instruments. 12 heavy cruisers, 28 destroyers, and 3 command ships. They're arranged in a standard defensive formation. Jinwoo nodded. The Phi aliens were following their textbook tactics, which meant they had learned nothing from their encounter with Admiral Kim's fleet. That was good. Predictable enemies were dead enemies. A soft chime indicated an incoming transmission. The face of KL-9 appeared on a secondary screen. The captured alien intelligence officer had become surprisingly helpful once he understood what humans were capable of. "Commander," KL-9 said in his mechanical translator voice, "the Vaxari war leader Grixmol has received reports about your Admiral Kim's weapons. They believe it was a trick or illusion." "What do you mean?" Subin asked. KL-9's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. "They think humans cannot possibly possess such advanced technology. Their scientists insist that your matter conversion beam was a holographic deception." Jinwoo almost smiled. "Almost. Thank you for the information, KL-9. Return to your quarters." The transmission ended. Subin looked puzzled. "Sir, why would they think our weapons are fake?" "Because," Jinwoo replied, "they've spent so many centuries believing that humans are primitive that they can't accept evidence to the contrary. It's a psychological defense mechanism. Rather than admit they were wrong, they convinced themselves that what they saw was impossible." He moved to the tactical station and began entering commands. Around them, space shimmered as more stealth ships decloaked just enough to communicate. The Ghost Squadron consisted of 30 vessels, each one invisible to conventional sensors and armed with weapons that could punch through any known shield. "All ships, this is Phantom Leader," Jinwoo broadcast on the encrypted channel. "The aliens think our technology is fake. Let's show them how real our illusions can be." The response came back immediately. 30 commanders acknowledged the order, their voices calm and professional. These were the elite of the human fleet, handpicked for their ability to kill without being seen. "Subin, prepare the reality distortion torpedoes," Jinwoo ordered. The young lieutenant's hands moved across her controls with practiced efficiency. She had trained for this moment her entire adult life. But now that it was here, she felt a strange mixture of excitement and terror. "Sir, what exactly do these torpedoes do?" she asked. "The technical manuals were classified above my clearance level." Jinwoo watched the alien fleet on his tactical display. They were so confident, so sure of their superiority. In a few minutes, they would learn the difference between human science and alien superstition. "They rewrite the laws of physics in a localized area," he explained. "Specifically, they make it impossible for matter to maintain cohesion. Enemy ships simply come apart at the molecular level." Subin stared at him. "That's impossible. You can't change the fundamental constants of reality." "The Vaxari would agree with you," Jinwoo replied, "which is why they won't see this coming." He activated the squadron's attack pattern. One by one, the Ghost Squadron ships moved into position around the alien base. They remained invisible, phasing in and out of normal space-time to avoid detection. The Vaxari sensors showed nothing but empty void. War leader Grixmol stood on the bridge of his flagship, confident that his superior position would allow him to destroy any human fleet foolish enough to attack. His scientists had assured him that the humans were bluffing with primitive holographic technology. "Sir," his sensor officer reported, "we're detecting minor quantum fluctuations throughout the system." "Background radiation," Grixmol dismissed. "These humans are trying to confuse our instruments with cheap tricks." He had no idea that 30 invisible ships had him surrounded. Jinwoo gave the signal. "All ships fire." Space erupted with weapons that shouldn't exist. The reality distortion torpedoes struck the alien vessels and began their work. The proud Vaxari warships started to dissolve, their hulls coming apart as the fundamental forces, holding their atoms together, simply stopped working in the affected areas. "Impossible," Grixmol screamed as his flagship began to disintegrate around him. "No species can manipulate reality itself." "Human species can," Jinwoo replied on an open channel. We've had 400 years to study quantum mechanics while you were playing with plasma guns. The alien commander's last transmission was a desperate plea to his fleet. All ships retreat. The humans have weapons beyond our understanding, but there was nowhere to run. The Ghost Squadron had positioned themselves to cut off all escape routes. One by one, the Vaxari vessels came apart like sand castles in a hurricane. Their crews had just enough time to realize they were dying before their molecules forgot how to stay together. In less than 10 minutes, the entire alien fleet was gone, not destroyed, simply converted back to the basic particles from which they had been made. The Vaxari base followed soon after, its massive structure collapsing as its atomic bonds dissolved. All ships report, Jinwoo commanded. Phantom 2, no damage. Phantom 5, mission complete. Phantom 12, all targets eliminated. One by one, his squadron reported successful kills. Not a single human ship had taken damage. The aliens had never even seen them coming. Su-bin stared at her instruments in amazement. Sir, we just destroyed an entire fleet and they never fired a shot at us. That's the point of stealth technology, Jinwoo replied. The enemy can't fight what they can't see. A priority transmission came through from Admiral Kim's flagship. The Admiral's face appeared on the main screen, his cybernetic eye glowing with satisfaction. Excellent work, Ghost Squadron. The Vaxari home fleet has received Grixmol's final transmission. They're mobilizing every ship they have to defend their core systems. How many ships, sir? Jinwoo asked. Intelligence estimates over 300. Vessels, Admiral Kim replied. They're calling it the largest fleet in Vaxari history. Su-bin felt her heart sink. 300 ships against the human fleet seemed like impossible odds, even with their advanced technology. But Jinwoo just nodded calmly. Orders, sir? Proceed to the Vaxari core system and show them what happens when you threaten human colonies. No survivors. The transmission ended. Around them, the Ghost Squadron began to fade back into invisibility, preparing for the next phase of the operation. Sir? Su-bin asked quietly. Can we really defeat 300 enemy ships? Jinwoo looked at her with something that might have been pity. Lieutenant, you're still thinking like the galaxy thinks. You still believe that numbers matter in space combat. He gestured to the empty space where the Vaxari fleet had been just minutes before. Those 43 ships were destroyed by weapons they couldn't see, using technology they didn't believe could exist. The 300 ships waiting for us are no different. But sir, Su-bin, he interrupted gently, the galaxy has spent centuries fighting wars with conventional weapons, energy beams, kinetic projectiles, nuclear warheads. They think warfare is about who has the biggest guns and the most ships. He activated the navigation system, setting course for the Vaxari home system. Humanity learned a long time ago that the biggest advantage in any fight is making sure your enemy doesn't know you're there until it's too late. The Phantom slipped into quantum phase, becoming invisible to every sensor in known space. Around them, the rest of the Ghost Squadron did the same, vanishing like spirits in the night. We're not going to fight 300 ships, Jinwoo explained as they accelerated toward their next target. We're going to make 300 ships cease to exist before they realize they're under attack. Behind them, space was empty, except for the scattered particles that had once been a proud alien fleet. The Vaxari had learned their first lesson about human warfare. Sometimes the enemy you can't see is the only enemy that matters. Soon they would learn the second lesson. Humanity had been preparing for this war for longer than their civilization had existed, and they were very, very good at it. High Chancellor Veltar of the Zentoran Republic had ruled the Galactic Council for 80 years. In all that time, he had never felt true fear. Today, as he stared at the holographic displays showing the complete destruction of 2 Vaxari fleets, his 3 hearts beat faster than they had since his youth. War Master Grix of the Korthak Dominion paced around the council chamber, his massive frame casting long shadows across the assembled representatives. The reptilian warrior had conquered 17 star systems in his career, but the reports coming from human space made no sense to him. This is impossible, Grix rumbled, his voice shaking the chamber walls. No species can develop weapons that rewrite physics. The humans are using some kind of trick. Ambassador Yansu Shin sat quietly at the human delegation table, her hands folded calmly in her lap. She had arrived on the Council world 3 days ago for what was supposed to be routine trade negotiations. Now she found herself at the center of a galactic crisis. Ambassador Shin, Veltar said carefully, the reports we're receiving from Vaxari Space are disturbing. Can you explain what happened to their fleets? Yansu looked up with mild interest, as if they were discussing the weather instead of the annihilation of entire armadas. I assume they attacked our colonies and discovered that this was a poor decision. The chamber erupted in agitated voices. Representatives from 12 different species began shouting questions and demands. Yansu waited patiently for them to quiet down. You cannot simply dismiss the deaths of thousands of beings, declared Councillor Thys of the Malari Federation. The Vaxari fleet at Kepler 442 simply vanished. There was no debris, no radiation signature, no evidence they ever existed. That does sound efficient, Yansu replied pleasantly. I'll be sure to pass your compliments along to our fleet commanders. Warmaster Grick slammed his fist on the table, cracking the solid stone surface. Human, your species has hidden weapons technology from this council. You have violated the non-proliferation accords. Yansu tilted her head slightly. Warmaster, I'm curious about something. When you conquered the Helios system 15 years ago, did you register your planet cracker weapons with this council? Grix's yellow eyes narrowed. That is different. The Korthak Dominion is a founding member of this council. I see. So the rules only apply to species you consider inferior. Yansu's voice remained perfectly calm. How interesting. Meanwhile, light years away, General Hyun-Ki Nam stood in the war room of the Terran Strategic Command. Holographic displays showed the positions of human fleets throughout the galaxy. What the aliens didn't know was that humanity had been infiltrating their territory for decades. General, reported Colonel Miran Kim, battle groups Alpha through Gamma are in position around the 3 largest Vaxari worlds. The enemy has no idea we're there. Hyun-Ki nodded. And the other alien fleets? The Zentorans have mobilized their home defense force. The Korthak are moving their war fleet toward our border. The smaller species are forming a mutual defense pact. Colonel Kim paused. They're scared, sir? Good. Fear makes enemies predictable. Hyun-Ki activated a communication link to Earth. Mr. President, the Council is attempting diplomatic intervention. Should we proceed with Phase 2? The response came back immediately. Show them what happens when you ignore humanity for 6 centuries. Make it memorable. Back on the Council world, Yansu was listening to increasingly desperate pleas from the alien representatives. They wanted humanity to stop its advance, to negotiate, to accept the Council's mediation in the dispute with the Vazari. Ambassador, Veltar said, his voice strained. Surely your people don't wish to destabilize the entire galaxy. We can arrange reparations for the attack on your colony. The Vaxari can be made to apologize. Yansu stood up slowly. When she spoke, her voice carried authority that made the chamber fall silent. High Chancellor, let me tell you a story. 600 years ago, when humanity first encountered your council, we were a young species, eager to join the galactic community. We offered our friendship, our trade, our knowledge. She walked to the center of the chamber, and suddenly the aliens were acutely aware that she was the only human in a room full of predators. Yet somehow, she was the most dangerous being present. You dismissed us as primitives. You relegated us to a tiny sector of space and told us to be grateful for the privilege. When we asked for representation on this council, you laughed. When we offered to share our scientific discoveries, you said we had nothing of value. Engineer Boram Jong was making final adjustments to the weapon systems aboard the battleship Eternal Wrath. The massive vessel hung in space near the edge of the Sol system, invisible to all sensors. Around her, technicians worked with quiet efficiency, preparing humanity's most devastating weapons for combat. Ma'am, asked Technician Jae-Sung Park, the quantum lance array is showing power fluctuations. Should we run another diagnostic? Boram shook her head. The fluctuations are normal. These weapons operate by temporarily fracturing space-time. Reality doesn't like being torn apart. She pulled up the technical specifications on her tablet. The quantum lance could punch a hole through the core of a planet from a range of 10 light years. It had taken humanity 300 years to develop the technology, working in secret while the galaxy ignored them. "How many shots can we fire before the system overloads?" Jae-sung asked. "More than we'll need," Bo-Ram replied grimly. "According to intelligence, the largest alien fleet ever assembled has 400 ships. We can destroy twice that many without reloading." In the council chamber, Yeon-su continued her speech. "For 6 centuries, you have treated humanity as an amusing curiosity, a species of violent primitives who were lucky to have discovered spaceflight. You studied us like insects, condescended to us like children, and dismissed our potential, because we came from what you call a death world." She paused, letting her words sink in. "Today you learn what it means when a death world species decides to stop pretending to be civilized." Counselor Thys leaned forward urgently. "Ambassador, whatever grievances your people may have, surely they don't justify genocide. The reports say you're targeting civilian populations." "We are targeting military assets only," Yeon-su replied. "Though I understand your concern. When your species fights wars, you kill civilians because your weapons are crude and imprecise. Human weapons are accurate enough to distinguish between combatants and non-combatants from across a star system." Warmaster Grix stood up, his massive form looming over the human ambassador. "You speak as if your technology is superior to ours. The Korthak Dominion has conquered half the galaxy with our weapons." "Yes, I've read your military history," Yeon-su said politely. "Very impressive for Bronze Age technology." The insult hit like a physical blow. Grix's hand moved toward his ceremonial weapon before he remembered where he was. "Bronze Age? Our plasma cannons can crack a moon. Our mining equipment can crack a planet," Yeon-su replied. "We use it to harvest asteroids for raw materials. Would you like a demonstration?" Before anyone could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the council building. Emergency broadcasts flooded the communication channels as reports arrived from across Vaxari space. "3 more fleets destroyed," shouted one of the Vaxari representatives. "Our home defense force is gone. They never even saw the attackers." "Impossible," Veltar whispered. "That's over 200 ships destroyed in a single day." Yeon-su checked her wrist communicator. Actually, it was 237 ships destroyed in 43 minutes. "My people are very efficient." The chamber fell silent except for the soft humming of the translation devices. The alien representatives stared at the human ambassador as if seeing her for the first time. "How?" Grix asked quietly. "How did you hide technology like this for so long?" "We didn't hide it," Yeon-su explained. "We developed it while you were ignoring us. Every time one of your species visited a human colony, they saw exactly what we wanted them to see. Peaceful farmers, simple traders, primitive scientists working with basic technology." She smiled, and there was something terrifying in that expression. "Meanwhile, in hidden facilities throughout our space, we were building the weapons that could destroy your fleets before they knew they were under attack." Another alarm sounded. This time, the news was even worse. "The Vaxari capital system is under siege. Ships are appearing out of nowhere and attacking our orbital stations." High Chancellor Veltar tried to maintain his composure, but his voice cracked as he spoke. "Ambassador Shin, I formally request that the Galactic Council mediate this dispute. We can find a peaceful solution that satisfies all parties." Yeon-su looked at him with something that might have been pity. "High Chancellor, you had 600 years to mediate. You chose to ignore us instead. Now you will observe what happens when humanity is no longer patient." She gathered her materials and stood to leave. "I'll be returning to Earth to report on this conversation. I suggest you use the time to decide whether you wish to negotiate with humanity as equals, or whether you prefer to join the Vaxari Empire in learning about human military capabilities." As she walked toward the exit, Veltar called out desperately, "What do you want from us?" Yeon-su paused at the doorway. "We want what we've always wanted, High Chancellor. Respect. Recognition. and the knowledge that no one will ever aga Captain Dong-Hyun Kang stood on the observation deck of the battleship Thunder of Earth, watching the Vaxari homeworld grow larger in the viewport. The planet was a fortress world, protected by orbital defense platforms that could destroy entire fleets. At least that's what the aliens believed. "Captain," reported Lieutenant Hansol Lee from the bridge, "all 7 battle groups have reached their assigned targets. We're ready to begin the final phase." Dong-Hyun nodded. Battle Group Tier was responsible for the Vaxari capital system, while the other 6 groups had surrounded the Empire's remaining strongholds. What had once been a proud civilization spanning 40 star systems was about to become a historical footnote. "Status on the planetary defenses?" he asked. 47 orbital platforms, each equipped with antimatter cannons and shield generators," Hansel replied. "According to our intelligence, they believe their defenses can withstand any assault." "They're correct," Dong-Hyun said calmly. "Their defenses can withstand any conventional assault. Fortunately, humans stopped fighting conventional wars 3 centuries ago." Major Yoon Ji-song was preparing her Marines for the ground assault that would follow the orbital bombardment. The soldiers under her command looked like something out of a nightmare. Their powered armor was black as space, equipped with personal shield generators and weapons that could punch through tank armor. "Listen up," she addressed her troops. "Intelligence says the Vaxari have ground forces equivalent to our old 20th century armies. Kinetic weapons, chemical explosives, basic energy shields." Private Young Min Han raised his hand. "Ma'am, what's our rules of engagement?" "Simple," Yoonji replied. "Military targets only, but any Vaxari carrying weapons is a military target. The aliens think they're warriors. We're about to show them the difference between a warrior and a soldier." She activated her armor's heads-up display, showing the tactical situation on the planet below. Millions of Vaxari troops were dug into defensive positions around their major cities, confident that their superior numbers would carry the day. They had no idea that 2,000 human Marines were about to destroy their entire military in less than an hour. Meanwhile, on the bridge of the Thunder of Earth, Dong-Hyun was receiving reports from his other battle groups. The news was uniformly excellent. "Battle Group Alpha reports all targets destroyed in the Vextar system," Hansol announced. "No survivors from the defending fleet. Battle Group Beta has eliminated Vaxari reinforcements in the Grixmal sector. Estimated casualties, 0 human, 100% alien. Battle Group Gamma is beginning orbital bombardment of the Korthval fortress worlds." Dong-Hyun watched the tactical display with professional satisfaction. Each battle group consisted of 50 human ships, facing alien forces that outnumbered them 10 to 1. Under normal circumstances, such odds would be suicide. But humans had stopped fighting under normal circumstances a very long time ago. On the planet below, Crix huddled in the ruins of what had been the capital city's military headquarters. The young Vaxari civilian had been visiting the complex when the human attack began. Now he was the only witness to what happened when humanity's true military might was unleashed. The orbital platforms had been the first to die. Crix had watched in horror as beams of impossible energy had reached down from empty space to strike the defensive installations. The platforms hadn't just exploded. They had been converted into pure energy, lighting up the sky like new suns. The defending fleet had lasted slightly longer. 317 Vaxari warships had been waiting to intercept any human assault force. They had died in less than 10 minutes, their hulls torn apart by weapons that seemed to ignore the laws of physics. Then the ground assault had begun. Major Eun Song led her Marines through the alien city like an avatar of destruction. Her powered armor made her faster than any Vaxari, stronger than their heaviest weapons, and deadlier than their worst nightmares. A squad of alien soldiers tried to ambush her unit from a fortified building. Yoonji's response was swift and brutal. Her armor's weapon systems locked onto all 17 targets simultaneously and fired. The aliens died before they could realize they were under attack. "Contact left," reported Sergeant Minho Park over the communication system. "Platoon strength enemy force in defensive positions." "Copy that," Yoonji replied. "All units, advance and engage. Remember, they think quantity beats quality." The human Marines moved through the Vaxari positions like death made manifest. Their weapons could punch through any armor the aliens possessed. Their shields could deflect any attack the enemy could mount. Their training was superior, their equipment was superior, and their tactics were superior. It wasn't a battle. It was an extermination. Crix watched from his hiding place as a single human soldier walked calmly through a street filled with Vaxari defenders. The alien troops fired everything they had at the armored figure, but their weapons might as well have been throwing rocks. The humans' return fire was precise and deadly, each shot eliminating a target with mechanical efficiency. In less than 30 minutes, 50,000 Vaxari troops had been reduced to scattered survivors hiding in the rubble of their own fortifications. Captain Donghyun received the final reports with grim satisfaction. All planetary defenses eliminated. Ground resistance collapsed. Military objectives secured. Casualties? He asked. 3 Marines with minor injuries from falling debris, Major Yunji reported. No combat casualties. Donghyun shook his head. In amazement, they had just conquered an entire star system, destroying hundreds of ships and eliminating millions of enemy soldiers, and the only human injuries had come from a damaged building. Sir, Hansol called from the communication station, we're receiving surrender broadcasts from the remaining Vaxari systems. They're offering unconditional capitulation. Too late for that, Donghyun replied. They had their chance to surrender before they killed 3 million humans. Now they get to experience the consequences. A priority transmission arrived from Admiral Kim's flagship. The Admiral's face appeared on the main screen, his expression satisfied but not surprised. Excellent work, Battle Group Tier. The other groups report similar success. The Vaxari Empire is officially extinct as of today. Orders, sir? Donghyun asked. Proceed to Phase 3. The Galactic Council has been watching our operations and several member species are mobilizing their fleets. It seems they've decided that humanity needs to be stopped before we become too dangerous. Donghyun almost laughed. Too dangerous? Sir, we haven't even begun to show them dangerous yet. Precisely, Admiral Kim replied. The Zentaurans, Korthak, and Malari have formed an alliance. They're calling it the largest fleet in galactic history, over 800 ships commanded by their best generals, equipped with their most advanced weapons. How long before they reach human space? Hansol asked. They're not coming to human space, Admiral Kim explained. They're planning to intercept us at the nexus point, the gravitational crossroads at the center of the galaxy. They think that if they can destroy our fleets there, they can prevent us from reaching their homeworlds. Major Yunji joined the conversation from the planet's surface. Sir, what about the surviving Vaxari civilians? They'll be relocated to reservation worlds under human oversight, Admiral Kim replied. They're no longer a threat, but they serve as an excellent example of what happens when species attack human colonies. The transmission ended. Around them, the human fleet began to regroup, preparing for the next phase of the campaign. The destruction of the Vaxari Empire had been a demonstration. The real war was about to begin. Crix emerged from his hiding place as the human Marines withdrew to their ships. The capital city was in ruins, its military completely annihilated, its government collapsed. But the humans had been careful to avoid civilian casualties, targeting only those who carried weapons. He found a working communication terminal and began transmitting his story to every news network in the galaxy. The other species needed to know what they were facing. This is Crix of the Vaxari 4th Colony, he began. I have witnessed the destruction of our empire by human forces. Everything we believed about their military capabilities was wrong. They are not a primitive species playing with advanced toys. They are the apex predators of the galaxy, and they have been hiding their true nature for centuries. His transmission would reach alien leaders across known space carrying a simple message. Humanity was no longer content to be ignored. They had revealed their true power, and anyone who threatened their people would face the consequences. The storm had been unleashed, and it was heading straight for the heart of the galaxy. Behind Crix, the human ships faded back into invisibility, disappearing like ghosts in the night. But their message remained clear in the smoking ruins of the Vaxari homeworld. The age of alien dominance was over. The age of humanity had begun. Fleet Admiral Sang-Ho Lim stood in the command center of the massive battleship Judgment Day, studying the tactical display that showed the greatest fleet ever assembled in galactic history. 843 alien warships waited for him at the nexus point, their combined firepower enough to sterilize entire solar systems. "Sir," reported Captain Jiwon Park, "intelligence confirms the composition of the enemy fleet. 200 Zentoran heavy cruisers, 300 Korthak battle destroyers, 200 Mallory strike ships, and 143 vessels from the smaller alliance members." Sang-Ho nodded thoughtfully. "Their best commanders?" "War Master Grix is leading the Korthak contingent. Admiral Veltanor commands the Zentoran forces. The Molari have sent Fleet Queen Zephys." Jiwon paused. "Sir, they've combined their 3 greatest military minds to face us." 3 great minds, Sang-Ho mused, "against a species that has been studying warfare since we climbed down from the trees. This should be educational for them." Commodore Mi-young Seo was coordinating the human fleet from her position aboard the carrier Retribution's Shadow. Unlike the massive alien armada, the human force consisted of only 60 ships. To any outside observer, the odds seemed hopeless. "All battle groups report ready for combat," she informed the Admiral. "Ghost Squadron is in position to begin the opening phase." "Excellent. Signal Commander Jin Woo that he may begin whenever he's ready." Light years away, Thais of the Molari Federation sat in her diplomatic office, desperately trying to convince her government to seek peaceful terms with humanity. The young counselor had been the only member of the Galactic Council to take the human warning seriously. "Prime Minister," she pleaded over the secure communication link, "you must recall, our fleet. The humans are not bluffing about their capabilities." Prime Minister Veldar's image flickered on the screen, his expression dismissive. "Counselor Thess, your fears are understandable, but our combined fleet outnumbers the humans 14-1. No species can overcome such odds." "The Vaxari thought the same thing," Thais replied. "Their empire no longer exists." The Vaxari were unprepared and overconfident. "We have studied human tactics and developed countermeasures. Our sensors have been modified to detect their stealth ships. Our shields have been upgraded to resist their weapons." Thais felt a chill of premonition. "Sir, what if their weapons aren't the ones we've seen? What if they've been holding back their most dangerous technologies?" "Impossible," Veldar scoffed. "No species could hide weapons more advanced than what they've already displayed." The transmission ended, leaving Thais alone with her fears. She activated her personal terminal and began composing what might be her species' final message to the galaxy. At the nexus point, the alien fleet waited in perfect formation. War Master Grix commanded from the bridge of his flagship destroyer of worlds, confident that his combined tactics would overwhelm the humans through sheer weight of numbers. "Sensors detect quantum fluctuations consistent with human stealth technology," reported his tactical officer. "Our countermeasures are in effect." "Excellent," Grix rumbled. "The moment they decloak, all ships will concentrate fire on their war position. We will not give them time to use their reality distortion weapons." Admiral Veltanor coordinated with his allies from the Zentoran command ship Stellar Dominion. "All vessels, maintain formation. According to our analysis, human tactics rely on confusion and misdirection. We will not allow them to separate our forces." Fleet Queen Zephys nodded agreement from her position aboard the Molari battleship Ocean's Wrath. "Our combined sensor network covers every cubic meter of space in this system. The humans cannot hide from us." They were wrong. Commander Jinwoo Choi watched the alien fleet from a position that should have been impossible. His Ghost Squadron wasn't hiding in normal space or using conventional stealth technology. They were operating from folded space-time, existing in a dimensional pocket that overlapped with normal reality, but remained completely undetectable. "Sir," Lieutenant Su Binyang reported, "the alien sensor grid is impressive. If we were using standard invisibility fields, they would have found us by now." "But we're not in their reality anymore," Jinwoo replied. "We're fighting from outside, the universe they understand. He activated the dimensional weapons that humanity had developed in absolute secrecy. These weren't the reality distortion torpedoes that had destroyed the Vaxari fleets. These were something far more devastating. All ships prepare to fire universe crackers. Subin felt her blood turn cold. She had heard rumors about such weapons but never believed they actually existed. Sir, those weapons are theoretical. The power requirements alone. The power requirements are why we've been building solar collectors around every star in human space for 200 years, Jinwoo explained. We've been storing energy for this exact moment. The universe crackers were humanity's ultimate weapon. They didn't destroy matter or energy. They temporarily severed the target's connection to the fundamental forces that held reality together. Ships struck by such weapons didn't explode. They simply ceased to exist in any meaningful sense. Fire, Jinwoo commanded. The effect was immediate and absolute. 100 alien ships simply vanished, not destroyed, but erased from existence. Their crews didn't die. They were retroactively prevented from ever having existed. War Master Grix stared at his tactical display in horror. Where did they go? What happened to the third battle group? Unknown, sir, his sensor officer replied, his voice shaking. They're just gone. No debris, no energy signature, no trace they were ever here. Admiral Veltanor was receiving similar reports from across the fleet. Impossible. Our sensors show that 100 ships have vanished, but we detected no weapons fire, no energy discharge, nothing. Fleet Queen Zephys tried to maintain her composure, but her voice cracked as she spoke. All ships maintain formation. The humans are using some kind of advanced holographic deception. But even as she spoke, another wave of universe crackers swept through the alien fleet. 200 more ships ceased to exist, their crews forgotten by reality itself. Admiral Sang-ho watched the carnage with professional interest. Status report, Commodore CO. 300 enemy vessels eliminated in the first 2 salvos, Mi-young reported. Ghost Squadron reports all systems nominal. No return fire detected. The aliens still haven't figured out where we're shooting from, Sang-ho observed. Signal Jinwoo to continue the demonstration. The third salvo erased another 150 alien ships. By now, panic was spreading through the surviving vessels as their commanders tried to comprehend what was happening to them. All ships scatter, War Master Grix ordered. Break formation and attempt evasive maneuvers. But there was nowhere to run. The Ghost Squadron could target any point in space-time from their dimensional pocket. Distance and movement were meaningless against weapons that struck from outside normal reality. This watched the battle from her government's orbital monitoring station. The sensor readings made no sense, showing hundreds of Allied ships simply disappearing without any visible cause. How are they doing this? Whispered her aide, a young Malari named Kess. They're not fighting in our universe anymore, Thissy replied quietly. They've transcended the rules of physics that we understand. She activated an emergency broadcast to all surviving ships. This is Counselor Thiss to all fleet commanders. You must surrender immediately. The humans have weapons that operate beyond our comprehension. War Master Grix's response was immediate and angry. Counselor, we will not surrender to primitives regardless of their tricks. They're not primitives, Thuss shot back. They're gods of war, and we're insects trying to fight them with our limited understanding of reality. The fourth salvo proved her point. The universe crackers reached out and erased the remaining alien ships in groups of 50, methodically reducing the greatest fleet in galactic history to empty space. In less than 30 minutes, 843 warships had been reduced to fewer than 50 survivors. The alien crews who remained were beyond panic, staring at displays that showed their comrades had never existed. Admiral Sang-ho decided the demonstration had gone on long enough. Signal the Ghost Squadron to cease fire, open a channel to the surviving ships. His image appeared on every remaining alien vessel simultaneously. The fleet admiral looked calm and professional, as if he had just completed a routine exercise rather than the most devastating military victory in galactic history. Attention, surviving commanders, he said conversationally. You have just witnessed a fraction of humanity's true military capability. Your fleets have been eliminated not through superior numbers or advanced technology, but through our mastery of forces that your species don't even know exist. War Master Grix tried to maintain his defiance. Human, you cannot have destroyed 800 ships so quickly. This is some kind of illusion. Check your sensor logs, Sang-Ho replied. According to your own instruments, those ships never existed. Our weapons don't destroy matter. They edit it out of reality entirely. The truth of his words was undeniable. The alien commanders checked their records and found no trace of their vanished comrades. It was as if hundreds of ships and millions of crew members had never been born. What do you want? Admiral Veltanor asked, his voice defeated. Unconditional surrender. Governor Taimin Ryu stood on the balcony of the new Human Administrative Center, watching the alien delegates file into the former Galactic Council building. 2 years had passed since the Battle of Nexus Point, and the galaxy was still adjusting to its new reality. Below him, representatives from 43 species waited nervously for the daily briefing. What had once been the proud Galactic Council was now the reformed Galactic Authority, operating under human oversight and dedicated to ensuring that no species would ever again threaten human colonies. Sir, reported his aide, Captain So Young-Oh, the morning reports from our peacekeeping fleets are ready for review. Taimin nodded and accepted the datapad. The numbers told a story of unprecedented peace across the galaxy. Interspecies conflicts had dropped to nearly zero. Piracy had been eliminated and trade was flowing more freely than ever before in galactic history. Any problems to address today? He asked. The Rigelian Confederacy is requesting permission to upgrade their defensive platforms, So Young replied. They claim it's for asteroid protection, but our intelligence suggests they're trying to develop weapons. Denied, Taimin said without hesitation. Remind them that human orbital stations provide all necessary system defense. They don't need weapons of their own. It was a conversation that played out daily across the galaxy. Former military powers were struggling to accept that their armed forces were no longer necessary. Humanity's peacekeeping fleets patrolled every inhabited system, their mere presence enough to prevent conflicts before they started. Zenth, the alien historian who had become humanity's unofficial chronicler, was working in his study aboard the orbital research station above the former council world. The elderly Zentoran had spent the last 2 years documenting the transformation of galactic civilization under human rule. Computer, he dictated to his recording system, personal log, day 731 of the human era. The changes continue to astound me. He paused, organizing his thoughts. Before the humans revealed themselves, our species measured success by military conquest and territorial expansion. Wars were constant, resources were wasted on weapons, and billions died in meaningless conflicts. Through his window, he could see human patrol ships moving through the system with calm efficiency. The sleek vessels were almost beautiful, their quantum drives leaving trails of light that looked like moving stars. Today, for the first time in recorded galactic history, there are no active military conflicts anywhere in known space. The humans have achieved through overwhelming superiority what we could never accomplish through diplomacy or force. On the planet below, former War Master Grix was adapting to his new role as administrator of peaceful development for the Korthak worlds. The once proud warrior now spent his days coordinating infrastructure projects and cultural exchange programs. Sir, reported his assistant, a young Korthak named Drix, the human engineering team has completed the new hospital complex on Korthak Prime. They're requesting permission to begin similar projects on our other worlds. Grix looked at the holographic displays showing the hospital's specifications. The building was more advanced than anything his people had ever constructed, equipped with medical technology that could cure diseases that had plagued his species for millennia. Approved, he said quietly, and send a message of gratitude to Governor Ryu. It still felt strange to him, thanking the species he had once tried to destroy. But the humans had kept their word. After defeating the combined alien fleets, they had not sought revenge or enslaved the defeated species. Instead, they had offered something unprecedented: protection, prosperity, and peace. Captain So Young, O was conducting her weekly inspection of the human peacekeeping fleet stationed in Tuar, the former Galactic Council system. The 20 ships under her command were more than sufficient to maintain order throughout the sector. Captain, reported Lieutenant Quan Ho Song from the bridge of the patrol ship Guardian. We've detected some unusual energy readings from the outer system. It might be a cloaked ship. So Young frowned. Origin? Unknown, but the signature doesn't match any known human technology. She felt a familiar tension in her stomach. Could one of the alien species be developing stealth technology in defiance of the peace accords? Or was this something worse? Set course for the energy signature. Alert Admiral Kim that we may have a situation. As they approached the source of the readings, So Young's fears were confirmed. A massive vessel was indeed hiding in the asteroid belt, but it wasn't from any known galactic species. The ship's design was completely alien, incorporating technologies that didn't appear in any human database. Captain, Lieutenant Song reported, his voice tense. We're being scanned. The ship is powering weapon systems. A transmission crackled through the communication system in a language that the universal translators couldn't process. After several minutes, the computer managed a rough translation. Unknown vessels, you are trespassing in territory claimed by the Andromeda hegemony. Withdraw immediately or be destroyed. So Young felt a chill of recognition. Intelligence had been monitoring signals from the Andromeda galaxy for months, trying to determine if the sudden silence from the Milky Way had attracted attention from neighboring galaxies. Apparently, it had. All ships, battle stations, she ordered. Send an emergency signal to Earth. Tell them we have first contact with an extragalactic species and they don't seem friendly. The response from Earth came within hours. Admiral Dae-Ho Kim's face appeared on So Young's screen, and she was surprised to see that the old warrior was smiling. Captain O, he said calmly, you've encountered an advanced scout from the Andromeda galaxy. Our deep space monitors detected their fleet entering our galaxy 3 days ago. How many ships, sir? So Young asked. Approximately 10,000 vessels, all equipped with technology, roughly equivalent to what the Galactic Council was using 5 years ago. So Young felt her heart sink. 10,000 ships was a massive force even by human standards. Orders, sir? Escort the scout ship to Earth. We want to have a conversation with these newcomers before we decide how to handle their intrusion. Earth, in the strategic command center that had once been hidden beneath the Swiss Alps. Military leaders were discussing humanity's response to this new threat. The room was filled with holographic displays, showing the approaching Andromeda fleet. Sir, reported General Hyun-Ki Nam, the alien fleet has stopped at the edge of our galaxy. They appear to be waiting for their scout to report back. Admiral Kim studied the tactical information. Assessment of their capabilities? Impressive by pre-war galactic standards, replied Dr. Woo Sung Lee from his position at the science station. Their ships are heavily armed and well shielded. If they had arrived 5 years ago, they might have posed a significant threat to the old Galactic Council. But not to us? Admiral Kim asked. Not even close, Dr. Lee confirmed. Their technology is based on conventional physics. They have no answer for our dimensional weapons or reality manipulation systems. Admiral Kim nodded thoughtfully. Still, 10,000 ships represents a substantial force. If we allow them to establish a foothold in our galaxy, other species might begin to think that human protection isn't absolute. The door to the command center opened and Fleet Admiral Sang-Ho Lim entered. The Supreme Commander of Human Forces looked as calm as ever, but there was something in his expression that suggested he was looking forward to the challenge. Gentlemen, he said without preamble, the Andromeda Scout has delivered their ultimatum. The hegemony demands that we surrender control of the Milky Way and submit to their authority. I assume you have a response prepared? Admiral Kim asked. Sang-Ho's smile was cold as the void between stars. Indeed, we're going to give them the same demonstration we gave the Galactic Council. The only difference is that this time, we won't need to hold back to avoid destroying our future subjects. He activated the holographic display showing the edge of the galaxy. The Andromeda fleet is conveniently grouped together waiting for our response. Dr. Lee, What's the effective range on our Galaxy-class universe crackers? Dr. Lee consulted his instruments. Approximately 50,000 light-years, sir. We can engage them from here without moving a single ship. Perfect. Signal the Andromeda fleet that humanity accepts their challenge. The message was transmitted across the galaxy, reaching the alien fleet within hours. The response from the hegemony commander was predictable: threats, boasts about their superior numbers, and demands for immediate surrender. Humanity's reply was a single shot from the experimental weapon system that Dr. Lee had been developing in secret. The Galaxy-class universe cracker reached across 50,000 light-years of space and simply deleted the entire Andromeda fleet from existence. 10,000 ships and their crews were retroactively prevented from ever having existed. The Andromeda Galaxy's most powerful military force became a memory that reality forgot. Admiral Sang-ho watched the tactical display show empty space where the enemy fleet had been moments before. Signal all human colonies and allied worlds. The galaxy remains under our protection. Any future threats will be dealt with using appropriate force. Zenth recorded the day's events with a mixture of awe and terror. Person.